Welcome back to Healing Chat. Today's guest is Emily Robertson, founder of Forward From Here and creator of the Ministry of Not Yet. Emily works with leaders and teams where change has stalled. Instead of pushing past resistance, she treats it as a clue, a sign someone's protecting something that matters to them. Through characters like permission seekers, she helps people spot their own patterns without shame and move forward from wherever they actually are. It's a philosophy that fits right at home here. Just like we always say, self-care is not selfish, it is survival. And you can do anything and admit you're not there yet. Emily, thank you so much for being here. So let's get into it.
Awesome.
So, what have you been up to at the minute? Let's have a little look. Take us back to Emily before the business. Where were you at? Where was life taking you and what was life telling you?
Okay, so before I started my business, was in a behavior change service.
Yeah.
I was in a role as a practice and performance lead, so
All right.
managing teams and supporting their practice development, and obviously looking at how they are performing on a day-to-day basis as well. And I'd been that member of staff before that, so I'd been a link worker for a long time before that. So that's where I was. So I've been wanting to start my business for a while.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like the coaching side of it, training side of it as well, and just supporting people to make change.
So you spent years working with these people who were all resistant to change and things
Yeah.
like that. What sort of drew you to that work originally?
Okay, well, so what drew me to that originally was it started out young, I'll be
Right.
honest. When I was growing
Tends to
up,
be the case.
I know. So when I was growing up, my dad was a really heavy smoker.
Right, okay.
And I remember begging him to stop smoking, and he didn't.
Right.
And I think that's when I learned really young that you can't make people change.
No.
You can't force change upon people. And as a child, I found that very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
So it was then when I was in my adult years and I just finished my master's in occupational therapy, and I was looking for a role, and this role kind of came up,
Yeah.
this behavior change service, and it just felt like it was written for me.
Yeah, it was what you were meant to do, written in the stars.
It was. And that role really gave me the skills to understand, like, although you can't make people change, you can create the conditions
For them. Yeah,
like make change more likely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's great. It's a great philosophy as well. Like, I love the whole concept of everything that you've done and created, but also just from that point of it, of the behavioural change and things like that. I think it's so interesting, like how all of that works. It is about creating the right conditions. You were right there.
Yeah.
So is there a story throughout everyone that you've worked with, things like that? Is there one specific sort of story that stuck with you? Do you think?
There's one story that I found like particularly interesting, and it was working with this gentleman who, I remember the day I turned up, he was, he was not in a well place.
Mhm.
He was really upset, and he was really kind of low self-esteem, low mood, really opening up to a complete stranger, just met me. And we did some work. So for him, it was around like not behavior, sorry. It was around diet, exercise. He was an older gentleman, but his motivation for wanting to lose weight was because when he would go out with his grandchildren, he would have to take up 2 seats when he'd sit in like a cafe and things like that. And I just remember thinking, like, that's why I do the work, because what it means to people to make the change. And so we worked together a little bit on how he would be able to go about that. So initially he said, I can't do it, like I'm too old.
He wrote it off in his own head already.
He did. He was just in this hole. And I just remember even just after one conversation, he's like, right, well, tomorrow I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to get rid of everything that's bad in my house. And he made like changes really, really quickly. And I think one of the reasons that it stuck in my head was because there's something that we call ambivalence, which is where we're like in two minds about something. So I want to lose weight and I really want to keep eating chocolate.
Yeah,
kind of.
that's me.
And what I noticed with him is he jumped into like the action stage. So I'd run him and he's like, yeah, I've stopped eating all like these like unhealthy pies and I'm cooking again and all of these amazing things. But then I spoke to him like a month later thinking, oh, you know what, I'm going to sign him off.
He's great. He's on his way.
Yeah, complete. So when I rang him, he'd like reverted, and I talk a lot about the cycle of change. But he'd reverted not back to like thinking about it and being ambivalent, but he'd like written it off like, well, I'm too old to change. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And
like, what is it? An old dog can't learn new tricks. That type of mindset, isn't it?
And he was like, yeah, I'm too old now. And that's where I find change so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because we all want to do something and we're all putting something off, and we might start doing the thing and kind of revert back as well. So it's around like, how can we then pick that up again and start working with it? And when I'm working with somebody, I have to change my approach to match where they're at. I can't
so it's changing you as well, kind of. So you have to match their change almost.
You do, because if I went back and said, well, let's just pick it up again, come on, we'll just get going, I just would have got more and more resistance and more friction. And that's not how motivation works. It's fluctuating. So you have to fluctuate with it.
So am I correct in thinking you took voluntary redundancy from that job?
Yes.
Through that day, the day you decided you were going to take it.
It was a hard decision. Like, I loved working for that organisation. Like, there's so much about it. It'd been my home for 7 years. I had 2 babies while I was working for them. Loved them, loved the ethos about it as well. And it was actually, we were looking to move house across the water. But also I knew that when my little boy started school, because I don't have any family around the area, I'm from way down south. No one to help with like school pickups and things like that like I wouldn't be able to, the job wouldn't be able to sustain me. I knew they were looking to make one person redundant. There was 3 of us leaders in that role. I knew I wouldn't be able to stay in the role, and I just made the decision. I think I wanted to set up my business.
It was always in the back of your mind.
Talked myself out of it so much. A lot of the ministry were kind of cropping up in my own ways of thinking. So I was like, you know what, like, I'll take one for the team. I've got this thing that I want to do. I'll give me a little bit of money towards it, and do what I want to do.
And so it was like, I bet that was so exciting, though, terrifying, really scary moment, but really exciting. What do you think that fear manifested itself as with you? Do you think it manifested in a certain way when you decided to take that jump? Like, I've heard you speaking about heightening sort of safe tasks and things like that. Do you think maybe it manifested in that sort of way? Or how do you think it manifested, that fear of once you'd taken that jump, where you were going to go next?
I think, oddly, like, I think taking the jump wasn't that scary. The run up to the jump was very scary. You know, I could have done it at any time, but like I say, it's the security of having a job at regular, especially with 2 small children.
Making sure you can still support that family. And
so there was a lot of fear around, like, what can I do? How much, like, do I have money to sustain me for a long period of time before things kind of get up and running? But then the fear then kicked in afterwards. And that's when I noticed a lot of these patterns in myself kind of cropping up, and other people as well I was talking to, really noticing them come up. So kind of started to do a bit more research into what was that, why is that holding us back, and how can we start to move it forward.
So was like that, you sort of perfectionism and things like that, all of those things that you'd speak about, was they the things that you were noticing?
Yes. So there's a lot of things. So I've created this thing called the Ministry of Not Yet, which is a way to explain a lot of these patterns. And I've come down to 10 characters, and they're all based in like behavioural science and theory and things like that. But what I noticed is that I'm not always a perfectionist, but it depends on what I need to do as to how loudly she shows up.
Maybe you create it as you saw it as a bit of a protection. You used it as a protection mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely. So the same for tasks. When I was starting out in business, it was like the website has to be perfect. I have to have all of the branding, and I have to look like I'm established professional before I can actually speak to a person to like actually validate the business. I hear that a lot in founders, especially early startup. We all feel like we have to have everything up and running and looking shiny and pretty, or like established and polished and things like that. But before we can actually like speak to people, so that's where it's a protection. So the perfectionist, as an example, she's she's really helpful normally. She's not in her overextended mode. She's really helpful because she wants you to put out work to a good standard.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's definitely not a bad thing. It's quite an important thing in a lot of points in life.
Yeah.
Like you say, when it overextends, that's when it becomes.
Yeah, because then the standard's never good enough. You can never meet that standard. So that's when we get a bit stuck. And then the safer tasks, like you say, sometimes we're so busy focusing on that we become a bit of a procrastinator as well. So that's something that showed up in me quite a lot. And not procrastination in the normal sense of the word. So it's not like I've got this really important thing to do. I'm going to go water the flowers and I'm going to go clean the house out. It's focused on the business. A structured procrastinator would be like, right, well, I'm going to get the website done and I'm going to get my emails cleared and everything's going to be color coded.
Making files in the email.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, absolutely. But the one scary, uncomfortable move, like actually speaking to a stranger, who could be a prospect, or putting yourself out there online, or coming speaking on a podcast, or whatever the move might be, gets pushed down the to-do list. It's still there, but other things suddenly more
important
because they're more comfortable.
They're easier, you don't have to put yourself out there, I suppose, isn't it? Do you think in the first year of your business, all of that, you have to learn things about yourself?
Yes, so much. So much. I think starting out in business, it stretches you in so many ways. And one of the biggest things for me has been being okay to get a no, get silent. So one of the other characters I called is the self-protector. She's the one that you put yourself out there and you're worried about the rejection, silence.
I think that's something like, for me, I relate to that one a lot.
Yeah.
Like the fear of rejection, the fear of being told no.
Yeah.
Basically, is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is such a scary thing. But then you've got to look at it. I suppose the other side of that one is, what can they say other than no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes we can get ourselves through by like, well, just do the thing.
Yeah.
But quite often it's not as simple and as easy as that. But yeah, so that learning that not everybody's going to want what I have to offer, and that's something I need to be okay with.
Yeah.
But also I have to put out what I offer for the people that
do want
it or do need it.
Like, this is always going to be two sides to every coin. Some people need what you've got, some people don't. But like you say, that's got to be okay. So like amongst that, you teach behavioural change and you've done that for years now. But what has been a hard behaviour you've had to change? Like in becoming this new businesswoman and creating that new almost persona of yourself. What was it? Behavior you had to learn to change? Like, was it hard to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the biggest one is, again, it's putting myself out there in so many different formats. I'm actually quite an introverted person naturally. So like stepping into business.
Most people are, like I think a lot of people that create a business are an introvert.
Yeah.
And they just have to push through it, don't you?
You do, absolutely. So going to networking events and actually speaking to people, they're not just standing there and I'm going to get another cup of coffee. And just so you've got something to do with your hands.
Yeah.
So check my emails so that like, no one comes and actually talks to me.
Doing something.
Yeah, exactly. So so many things in so many different ways. Like early on, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to post something online for the first time. All of these different growth phases that you go through. And you look after, I'm on a podcast. Like I never think about it. I never thought that I would get to a point where I'm speaking publicly about something that I've created.
Yeah.
I've been able to deliver training and things like that. That's kind of somebody's been created. And then I'm delivering it.
Yeah,
exactly. But to create something, so again, all of my ministry kind of pop up a lot, especially when I'm like, this is something that I've created to help me and to help other people understand like what's going on inside ourselves, and that this is how we can move them forward as well.
Love all that. I love it. So what does healing mean to you? And would you say that's changed in let's say the past 2 years, 5 years, however long, that idea of healing ourselves, whether that be through behavioural changes and things like that, or through whatever it is that that person needs? Is your sort of idea of healing and changing changed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even before I kind of started all the work, I suppose my perception of healing was that you'd go and have to speak to a therapist, and you go into the past and you relearn or unlearn some of the stuff that's happened to you kind of in the past, which is, I know it's really helpful in a lot of situations. I used to see healing as go back into your past, figuring out where things started and curing them.
Healing from traumas and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I understand, like, why am I like this? But since I've kind of really got into the coaching sphere over the last few years and really understood kind of behavior change, for me personally, and this isn't for everybody, but what I find with coaching is I've healed a lot, and I've healed myself a lot as well, just by purely understanding like what's showing up in me right now.
Yeah.
So I could look at what's showing up in me right now and go right back to when I was a kid and think, how does that connect? Me, I'm about how can I move forward anyway?
Yeah.
These characters, if I'm thinking about the ministry, even though these characters are showing up in me, how can I move forward? So for me, healing is that, as well as being afraid and still moving forward.
I love that. I love that. It's being afraid but still moving forward. I like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a nice thing to pull from when you're thinking of healing and things, that like little thing of you are going to be scared, but you've just got to keep going and you've just got to do it. If you don't take the chance, then you never know, do you?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the ministry.
Yes.
Let's go for it.
Okay.
So let's grab, you've got some cards, I think.
Yes.
So let's have a little chat about the characters and where they came from and what your sort of ideas behind them were.
Okay. So just before I kind of go through them individually, they came from my work on myself and with founders as I was coaching and understanding, and they've evolved since to be used in organizations with leaders and teams and things like that. So some of the people that show up might be a little bit different, but they still show up in all of us. So the first one I've got is the Traditionalist. So she is the secretary of the status quo.
I love it. I love it.
So she is helpful because she knows what's working, she likes stability, and she's protecting from like unnecessary disruption.
Right.
Her overextended mode is when comfort becomes the reason that nothing changes.
Right. Okay.
In organizations and in teams, there's quite often a lot of change. We've got to keep on top of things. And there's quite often characters that show up in us that are like, oh, but I know what I'm doing. I've got certainty over it. I know my routine. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Let's just stick at it.
Don't change. Just keep it how it is.
Yeah, exactly. But that can be quite challenging for like an organization.
Yeah.
And the work that I do is to help them become their enhanced role. So she then becomes the pioneer, which is the chancellor of future possibilities. So again,
I love it.
it's not about, so first of all, the ministry is not about a label. So it's not saying you are a perfectionist. It shows up at different times. And it's not about firing the character either. It's like, how can we bring their enhanced role out?
Right. Okay.
That's what I do. So that's the Traditionalist. We've then got the permission seeker, who's the controller of sign-off acquisition. Big words.
Okay.
Big words.
We love that.
And again, so that's somebody that's protecting you against making the wrong call. And their extended mode is when they have to, everybody has to agree before we can move.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I actually love the pictures on them, guys. Look at these pictures. They're absolutely great because they fit so well with what like the person is. You've like gone spot on with them.
they're all on the website. So if anybody wants to see
Yeah.
it, you can absolutely have a look at that. Yeah. So the permission seeker becomes the owner. So they own the decisions and they move forward. We've spoken about the procrastinator again. So the procrastinator then becomes the initiator and they moving forward. We've got the rationalist. So they need certainty, they need data, they need information before they can move. And then they become the explorer.
To someone that's very sort of methodical in their processes.
Yes, absolutely. Then we've got the historian. So they've noticed things have happened in the past. And then rather than learning to move forward, that they
live past.
Exactly. And they can't move forward. So they then become the torchbearer. So they're taking those lessons to see how can we move forward with.
Yeah.
So that's them. Perfectionist was spoken about. She becomes the finisher.
Yeah.
So she knows when it's good enough to get out.
Don't need all of it to be perfect as long as it's good enough.
What is good? So it's about how can we set that boundary? How can we know what good enough
What
actually is, so that we know when we hit it, rather than it's not quite good enough and keep going.
Going on forever. You could, couldn't you? Though you could with perfectionism. You could go on forever trying to get something to that perfect point.
Yes, absolutely. And what is perfect?
Yeah.
Then we've got the pleaser, who's like a people pleaser, and she becomes the honest ally. So she's obviously protecting like relationships and stability. And when she's the honest ally, she's having like honest conversations early, which builds trust. The keeper, nearly there, guys. The keeper.
I love them. I love them. Me. I could sit and listen to them forever.
So the keeper actually came out of my work with founders, and that was when you're a founder and you're ready to like hire somebody new into the organization, it can feel pretty scary because your business is your baby. So bringing someone in can be quite scary, but obviously in organizations as well, it's about like yeah, exactly. So she becomes a delegator and brings people on. My self-protector. So she's the minister for rejection prevention. She becomes a contributor. So she's getting herself out there. And then the pessimist. So they are the head of risk forecasting. So just anticipating that things are all going to go wrong. And I think, again, that's really strong in founders, but can be in teams as well. And they become the realist. So they're able to take that information and move forward realistically.
So I love them. They're so interesting. So yeah, guys, if you do want to have a little look at those, they are on the website as well, aren't they? You're on your website.
They are, yeah.
So which one of those members would you say showed up the most in your life? Which one shows up the most?
Quite often the people pleaser.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pleaser. And if I think about my business early days, it was around like wanting to, like doing things like saying a lower price, like
just agreeing.
Yeah, agreeing to terms that like you're not really wanting to agree, like reducing your price, but also then letting other people dictate what you do in your business as well. So that was something that I was kind of recognizing in other people, that they were that they had clients that were taking the mick.
Yeah.
So again, how can we put boundaries in place so that relationship is effective, but also for yourself as well? So, you know, if you've got your price, how can we give you the confidence to say that and mean it and not?
Yes.
And I've done that myself, you know, early days. I've even had a price in my mind and just a lower one came out of my mouth. I wasn't even challenged.
It represents itself in so many different ways, that one, like in everyday life as well as the business world and all of that. Like, and being the people pleaser can be like detrimental at some points when you're not thinking about yourself. You're saying yes because you don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
You get that thing in the back of your head of it's like the rejection thing kind of links in with it. You don't want to upset someone because you don't want them to walk away, or whether in business you don't want them to walk away from the agreement, or in everyday life you don't want them to sort of turn their back on you, and they're probably not going to.
No,
at the end of the day, they're probably not going to, but it's that little thing in the back of your head.
And it's hardwired from, you know, I mean, who we are as a human being, you know, that's wired in us from caveman times, even before, because we were social creatures.
Yeah.
And if we got rejected from the group back then, we'd be dead because you're not part
So
of
you
the
think
group.
that's where it comes from?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That I would never have put it back to like that far back. I think because it's so much of like, you think about it in a way of wanting to help people and things like that, I would have thought it was not as far back as.
But it's all about the
community. And that's really interesting. So you try to reframe these characters instead of eliminating them from your life. You can't eliminate who you are at the end of the day. And you try and reframe them. So why is that so important to be able to reframe those in your mind?
Because, so for me, I take like the approaches that I pull into my work is something called solution-focused approach and motivational interviewing. And what they do is they're very strength-focused and they're very future-focused. And what that then means is that if we can understand what we see in front of us, we can work with it, see the the positive in it and move forward with it. So if I came along and I said, well, you need to get rid of your perfectionist and you need to stop procrastinating, that's part of us. And they are all there for a really good reason. And that was why I whenever I work with organizations and leaders, it's not about, I'm not doing a behavioral profile on your teams and saying, well, you've got Sally Nichols. Sally Nichols is your perfectionist, and like Tim in your sales department, here's your people pleaser, or anything like that. It's not. They're in us all times and show up at different instances, situations. But if we can understand, and that's why it took me a while to kind of create them, because I was digging and trying to say, like, why is this behavior showing up in me and in the people that I see? There's got to be a purpose, a helpful purpose to it. So that's why I'm quite strong and say like how they're helpful and what they're protecting, because if we can understand that, we can work with it. So anytime you're kind of feeling like resistance and pushback, it's not that the other person's being difficult, hard to work with, or any other kind of things that we might think about people. They're telling us something.
There's something else behind.
That very resistance. Someone's angry and passionate about something, it can feel quite intimidating. They care about something. So if that's the work that I do, is that reframe, like, what am I being presented with and how can I work with it? So like I say, all behavior is information. So even the negative behavior, I like to dig, like, oh, I can see like that's made you kind of angry. What? Yeah, exactly.
It's like the question of why, isn't it? Always asking why. Asking why until you get to the point that you understand I think it helps you understand yourself a bit better. And like, it's not just understanding for, let's say, a manager or a founder. It's not just understanding their team. It's understanding themselves as well. And when you go into a situation and you can then start to notice those characters coming through, and you can, like you say, almost flip them on the head and be like, right, well, how can I use this for good?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that you kind of reminded me of there is that, when I'm working with leaders, it's not just how do you recognize the ministry in front of you. It's how do you recognize the ministry in yourself. You need to get the perfectionist card out,
going, right. So all of the work you do, sort of healing people, helping people change those behaviors and things like that. Why do you think you do this work? Do you think it's important for you to see a change in people? Like, is that something? Like, is there a reason behind it that you feel maybe that satisfaction or what? So, like, do you feel the need to help people? Do you think?
I mean, I've always been in a helping role in one way or another, absolutely. And if I'm honest, like when I'm doing coaching, when I'm having conversations with people, it's a bit addictive.
Yeah.
It really is.
Buzz, that a little gratification, isn't it? That's when you work.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gratification as in I made that happen or I helped that to happen. Or just what I love is when I'm talking to people and like, just all these little light bulb moments, and I get this insight, and then I'll just reflect back kind of what I've heard, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about it like that." It's like, yeah, but you just said that.
That's what you said.
Exactly.
It's like making people see things in a different way than me.
Yeah, exactly. And what I love about coaching as well is, and what I learned when I was working in behavior change service, is that it's not necessarily always helpful to go digging in the problem. Which can sound a bit counterintuitive because you feel like I need to really understand the problem to be able to help people move forward. But that's why I've fallen in love with the solution focused approach, because it doesn't do that. It's all about like, how can we move forward or forward from here? And in a session, so what I noticed from when I started my last role to like now, or as the progression happened, I used to kind of ask like questions like, what's wrong, what's going on, like, tell me all about the problem, and I'd come out of the sessions feeling heavy. The person would come out feeling, they'd probably feel a bit like it was cathartic, like I was helpful to get it all off my chest. But I would be holding a lot. So then when I was introduced to the solution focused approach, it changed my sessions, it changed the whole way I work. And that's why I really want to bring it into organizations, because I took it into my leadership when I got into that role as well. And what I'd find is that I'd walk out of a session, and rather than feeling like heavy and like the whole world is on my shoulders and feeling like burnt out and compassion fatigued and things like that, I'd walk out buzzing.
Never heard that word, compassion fatigue. I get that as well. Like, I feel like,
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
So when you've swapped that round and now you're coming out of all sessions
Oh,
feeling
it's
so much lighter.
honestly so buzzing.
And
So
that's
buzzing.
such a great thing.
Yeah.
Great thing.
And it's not to say like we don't talk about the problem, we dismiss it, or
Yeah.
we're not allowed to talk about a problem, but it's how much airtime it gets. And then, okay, how can we move forward from here? So yeah, and that's what I love. And that's why it works so well in organizations and leadership teams and things like that, because quite often you go to a meeting, you spend nearly the whole hour talking, like analyzing the problem, really trying to pick it all apart. And then 5 minutes at the end, like, so what we're going to do about it? Whereas this kind of flips it on its head. Like, okay, what's the problem? Okay, but how can we move it forward? What do we know about ourselves? What's great about our team? What strengths do we have? When we've moved through something difficult before, how have we managed to do that? And we move forward. So yeah, that's why I love it.
So what would you say to a woman watching this right now who is stuck at the point of redefining her fonts on her website instead of making that important phone call? What would you say to her?
First of all, what I wouldn't say is just do it, because it's so much harder than that. There's just so much kind of going on. What I would want to ask instead is like the important phone call that you're putting off. What is that costing you right now in energy, momentum, money coming in, prospects, your confidence, because you're not putting yourself out there? What's it costing you now? And then if you continue to work on your website and find other shiny objects and things to work on, which we all do, very guilty of it as well. In 3 months' time, what's it then costing you? And what that can do is that helps to kind of increase the spotlight, the urgency on what it is that we're putting off. Suddenly comes up the to-do list a little bit more, and it can help to move things forward. So yeah.
I love that. So now maybe it's time for you all to start and think about what is your not yet right now. So thank you for joining us on Healing Chat by Tolicious, everyone. Remember, healing is not a destination. It is a journey. Until next time, we will see you all soon. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It is survival.